very interesting question there on the young Earth. One of the evidences which strongly shows that there is catastrophe in the Earth is coal. Coal is something which I have studied because it's partly in my area of combustion, which I studied for a long while, and we did look at the ignition of coal. And coal comes in all sorts of forms. Coal obviously is essentially carbon, but it's the amount of other stuff with the carbon which gives you the rank of the coal. So high rank coal means that you've got much carbon per unit kilogram in the coal. If you've got low rank coal, you then have much less carbon content. So you're dealing with here 50%, 60, 70, or even 80, or it can even be 90% rank coal. That latter case, you'd have anthracite, basically, very, very hard coals. Now, people don't realize that coal is itself evidence that it must have happened fast. Coal is essentially plant material. Sometimes it can be trees, plants, whatever, which has been buried. And it has to have been buried pretty quickly. Normally, when you just put your plants at the bottom of your garden, or the Americans would say your yard, and you put them at the bottom there during the heat of the summer, it would just rot and become compost, even with rain falling on it. It would perhaps form eventually peat, like you find a lot of peat bogs in Ireland, but you wouldn't get coal. How do you get coal? The only way you can get coal is when the plant material, rather than being allowed to be exposed to the atmosphere and gradually interchanging carbon with the atmosphere and forming carbon dioxide, and then, gradually rotting the rest of it, is by the only way you can get coal is by burying the plant material to stop the process of gradually burning with the oxygen of the atmosphere. Having buried the coal, then you get what we call pyrolysis. Buried the plant material, I beg your pardon. Once you've buried the plant material, you pyrolyze. That means that the hydrocarbons in the plants break down into their constituent parts. Carbon, a bit of hydrogen. Some of the hydrogen might react with other substances in the plants. You get a few sulfides. You get a bit of hydroxyls of some form. You get a lot of carbon, but very little oxygen. Are you with me? If you had any oxygen there at all, the oxygen combines with the carbon to produce carbon dioxide. But in the coal, it's essentially carbon. 60, 70, 80, or even 90% carbon. The only way you can get that is by burying it. Well, how interesting. I have a book, maybe some of you have heard of it, called the Bible, which talks about burying creatures and material. Not explicitly, but it implies it, because it talks about a worldwide flood. And it's hardly surprising that I find evidence all over the world of buried material, buried plant material, coal, ubiquitous right across the world. So the very presence of coal is in support of a worldwide flood.